the environment is going to suck some days. But if you can still walk out there and be like, you know what, I'm going to give it my best effort no matter what, right? The personal mindset journey, I think, is the biggest thing, because that's what's going to carry through life. Take a breath, mama. Like, at the end of the day, your kid needs you to be mom, right? Whether he strikes out, he hits a home run, it's a good day, it's a bad day, like, you are just mom at the end of it. That's all they need.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Next Season Podcast, episode 25. And this episode is a little unique and it's really special for me. It's mid-May, which means we're in the midst of baseball season and end of school craziness and the beginning of summer, but it's also Mother's Day. And I'm pumped to have a special guest, my wife, Taryn. She's a business owner with a jam-packed schedule. She runs our house. She keeps us straight. But most important, she's a rad wife and a kick-ass mom. She's traded in the Mother's Day brunches for the baseball field. And she, like all you baseball moms out there, don't get nearly enough credit for everything you do. So in this episode, I want to honor you. I want to recognize you. We talk about our journey together and how baseball has always seemed to be a part of it. The wins and losses of being a baseball parent, life lessons, building grit, fun stories, and maybe some not so fun stories from the sidelines, and the value of creating a family culture for our athletes, and much more. Baseball moms everywhere, thank you. It's clear that us coaches and players couldn't do this without you. You know that, but I hope you enjoy. So Taryn, welcome to the Next Season Podcast.
Hi.
How big has baseball been in your life, and expected, unexpected?
I watched baseball as a kid, Orioles fan, and was always into it, but never really realized that my life would kind of revolve around the sport the way that it does now and how it does now. I think I knew pretty early on, after meeting you and knowing that you had played ball in college, and one of our earliest dates was actually watching a baseball game. I remember that. And then when you were playing in the men's league and things like that. And then once we had a son who even remotely showed athletic ability, I thought, okay, here we go.
Yeah, it was, so we kind of had a whirlwind, but it was the end of May that we went down to Camden Yards, and that was kind of the official beginning of Taryn and Kevin, right?
Well, I actually came to your house to watch a baseball game early on, the beginning of the season. So that was the beginning. But yes, actually, like, relationship start. Camden Yards, man, holds a lot of memories, huh?
Yeah. And it's weird because we ended up moving down there and would go, just kind of random nights we would go. But for some reason, like, baseball has been there for the big moments in our lives, like the good and the bad. Like, I remember, I don't think we had tickets. I don't know if you remember this or not. I don't think we had tickets, or maybe we did, or maybe you got them through work. But it was a random night. I had just gotten laid off of my job. So this was in the midst of the economic 2008, and I had gotten laid off, and you're like, let's go to the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. Baseball has been therapeutic. It's been challenging, but for some reason, it's always been at key points in our life.
Yeah. We started dating after a baseball game. We took our first picture at a baseball game. We essentially met some of our nearest and dearest friends over the last decade plus through baseball. Our son, obviously, is now baseball. Our daughter is finding her home as a sideline sister with some of her friends and relationships that she's building. But yeah, at that time, I can remember we were poor living in Baltimore. And just by nature of what I did, I would get those free tickets because the company had tickets and nobody else lived in the city. It was just us. And so I would come back from my lunch break and have tickets on my desk. And so we weren't even buying the tickets to go to the games, but it was a little bit of a release when that's kind of all we had. And it was fun. We had no idea really back then, but yeah, it's played some big moments. And then of course we had the Orioles bird at your surprise birthday party that I planned for you down there. Still are in contact with him today. So that has also been a relationship that has carried on, and it's been good times.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to go into that story, but yeah, when you combine broken glass and stitches and an Oriole bird, it probably makes for a good, memorable story.
Yeah. Yep. At least he still waves from us from the field. So, we're on good terms.
He does. Well, we're not going to name drop him, but shout out. You know who you are. Appreciate you. But, engagement pictures for baseball.
Yeah. Yep.
And we got married on a baseball field on home plate. And that was your idea. So talk me through, because I don't know if I've ever really sat down and asked you this question. At what point were you okay with that? Because that was your idea.
Okay, so you know that my love language is gifting other people. Like, I do it for Christmas, birthdays, whatever it is. I am one that just, as you've said, cannot be outdone when it comes to gifting. And
No.
I enjoy it. I take a lot of pride in that. And I don't know, I wasn't in the wedding industry at the time, but I feel like weddings are very focused a lot of times on what the bride wants and what her vision is for a wedding. And they, it's usually the brides who have been dreaming of something since they were a little girl. I was not that person. I was not someone who had this vision of what my wedding day needed to be. And so when I first started thinking about it, it was like, what could I do to also make this special for other people? And, baseball played such an important role in your life. And, Rich, who came and officiated our marriage, played such an important role in your life. And it was just a little way of, I didn't care where we got married. The outcome was going to be the same. So why not make it cool and make it different? I marched to the beat of my own drum. I always like to do things a little bit unexpected. I don't think anybody who came to our wedding had ever been to a wedding at a baseball field, nor did they actually expect that we would have done it. But then once they were there, they were like, this is all, this is them. It's awesome. And what a weird coincidence that it also put things back in motion for you and Dustin, who was just on your podcast, and other things like that. So I don't believe there's coincidences. I believe that when a moment or a thought strikes, you run with it. And that's kind of what I did.
Well, I appreciate it. And you're right. Like there's kind of random weird connections that we still see in our life that stem from that. And, we didn't talk about this at the beginning, but you just touched on it a little bit. But what you do now professionally is you're in the wedding industry.
Yeah.
And really cool point you just made is like, what I see you do with the couples that you work with, it's all about making it unique to them. And that was just your way of doing this for you. And again, prior to you even doing the business, has that been an intentional thought process for you about like translating, this is the experience that we had in our wedding. It was very personal to us. And I want to help you create this for you.
Yeah. I actually go back to our own wedding a lot when I talk to people on a variety of different things. And just that you don't have to ask permission from anybody to do something that feels right for you two. And I think that's what we did. Had we gathered opinions from everybody else around us, somebody probably would have tried to talk us out of being married on a baseball field with no plan B, with all of that. But it was the best. And even better is you can go to so many different events and it's like lather, rinse, repeat, same thing over and over and over. Nobody forgets our wedding. Nobody who came to our wedding forgets the night before, having the game, the first pitch, the fireworks, the suite. Nobody forgets it.
Now, somebody listening to this might think, well, I'm here for a baseball mindset podcast. I'm not here for weddings. But what you just talked about, and I think what's important is what I hear is authenticity. Like in everything that you do, and you are you. Like you are, I think one of the things that I love and appreciate most about you is your authenticity. You are absolutely 100% you at all times. And it takes on different shapes and forms depending on the situation, but you're still you. And one of the things I talk about with my athletes is you got to be you, trust you, do you. Like you have to be authentic. And this goes for parents as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I hear you say that to the kids that you coach of like, if you're stepping on that baseball field or you're walking up to the plate and you're just trying to do it like somebody else, that's not going to work because you're not them, and you have to find your own way. There can be the same foundational things as part of it. But if you're a kid with swag, you got to bring that swag onto the field. If you're a kid that's not, you're much more serious, be serious, yeah, that's me through and through.
Absolutely is. So we're recording this obviously a couple of days prior to Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It's going to come out most likely the day after Mother's Day. And that is because you are spending your Mother's Day on the sidelines of a baseball
At
field.
a baseball field, Mother's Day tournament. Actually, no place I would rather be.
At what point did you realize that this was going to be your life? And how do you feel about spending your Mother's Days and probably the next, I don't know, 10, 15 Mother's Days at least in a similar position?
Yeah. I probably within the last 2 years really is where I realized that this was a thing. Early on when our son was in T-ball, it's just fun, right? They're out there, they're trying something new, they're having fun. I knew he loved it, but we have a multi-sport kid. And I think as parents, we've done a really good job of letting both of our kids explore what they're interested in, what they're into, and we didn't force one thing or the other. And so you never really know where they're going to end up. And at one point, I think, our son was into his competitive travel soccer just as much as he was into competitive travel baseball. And then maybe age 10, you really started to see that pendulum tip to the other side of the scale. And it became more competitive and his dedication to it amped up a little bit. And, we got on different teams that just had different philosophies and a lot more field time and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized, all right, if we're in this, this is what he wants. And we're going to support him in the journey that he wants to take for as long as he wants to take it. Then we're going to do what we need to do to be there. And I think all mothers are like this, but it's like what you say, whatever is going to make my kid happy, obviously within reason. But if that means that we are giving up weekends to go sit at the baseball field, that's what we do, because we have a very short moment of time where they get to have this life as kids. And we are lucky to sit on the sideline and watch it happen. So why not? And I think we've also done a really good job integrating it into our family unit as a whole. We are not in a situation as some others are who have 3, 4, 5 kids playing weekend sports. And that makes a big difference of where you can be, right? Because when you have to divide and conquer, you don't have a choice. Our daughter, they overlap in the winter, but we have weekday stuff in, the spring and summer. We travel as a pack. And I think that's something that's really made this a little bit more palatable for us as a family as well, is that we all go. And she's got her sideline sister crew. We have the moms on the sidelines, the boys are friends on the field. It's very much a family environment. So it's not something that I think we've ever not enjoyed going to. I mean, maybe at one point, but once you find the right place, then you're good.
Yeah, and that's important. You got to find the right place, and you got to help create that culture too, right? Like that's really important. What people often think, well, I'm the victim of the circumstance on a man. Well, you also have an opportunity to create it, and I think that's something that's been top of mind for us. So when you meet, you're talking about other baseball moms and other baseball families. When you meet other baseball moms, what do you ask them? What do you talk about?
Baseball.
Do I want to know?
What's in your Snapple box today?
Well, we're gonna come back to that. We're gonna talk about that.
What's in your crock pot tonight? Where are the siblings right now? Has anybody seen our children recently? I don't know. It's interesting because it's almost, the kids are out there and they're doing something fun and together. And just as much as they're trying to build camaraderie and trust and stuff on the field, I feel like the parents have to do that off the field too, because if you have parents that are all singular units and only worried about their own kid and only, worried about what they're doing, it does affect the team as well. And we've seen that on, certain times in his baseball career where when there's just not a good connection, it spills over onto the field. But when you get into a team like we've been on now for a few years, where the culture is, we've got each other's back, we're here for each other, whatever, it does make it a lot easier. Because really, I mean, you're making friends as adults too, and that who loves to do that? But it's easier that you have a shared interest. And I think, again, when the team culture is right, then the sideline culture is right as well. And you kind of weed out the bad apples as you go.
Yeah. So, mothers never get enough credit for what they do to keep things moving. What are some of the emotional pulls that you felt or you've noticed from, carrying a family and juggling schedules and making sure that people are where they need to be. And not all that responsibility is on you, but you're just somebody who takes a lot of that. And then, of course, on the sideline and the highs and lows of the game and the highs and lows of how your son's playing and the emotional toll that he takes, what are some of the things that you feel and you observe between you and mothers on the sideline?
Well, I think my perspective is a little bit different because I'm not just a baseball mom, but I'm a coach's wife. And that that plays a different role into a lot of it too. Yeah, coaches wives club. Um, there's a lot. I think whether you're a coach's wife or you're not, I think there are just certain things that moms tend to step in and do and take control of leading up to making these big weekends happen, right? Not only, okay, what's my laundry schedule? When do we need, we got 2 shirts and I've got 8 games a week. Like, where, when am I washing these clothing? Because we have 12-year-old boys now, like, uniforms need washed. How many pairs of pants do we have? Did the pants have holes in? Where's the belt? Did we pack the bag? Are the cleats getting too small because they're growing out of shoes every 4 months? And, they won't tell us until they put them on and they don't fit. What snacks do we need? Did I get to the grocery store? How does this fit in with, chorus concerts and field trips and other things that are going on? Is my kid getting enough of a social life outside of this? Is he missing sleepovers? Are there birthday parties? There are 100 things that we try to juggle with this life. And I think it's only exacerbated a little bit when you are a coach's wife, because your mind is elsewhere. Your mind is strategizing what's happening on the field and, parent relations, and, you're working with the head coach of the team and in those text messages and who are we up against, and just a lot more of the operational stuff. And then I'm in the background, get it all in the car. Do we have chairs? Do we have whatever? So that, the morning of the tournament, you and our son are coming downstairs and everything's there and ready. Like it really, our job is to keep it smooth behind the scenes so that it doesn't start the day with stress, because then that is a trickle down effect on everything else.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And again, you don't get enough credit for it. Um, I hope that I appreciate it, but you don't get enough credit. If there was advice that you would give to dads and coaches, what would that be from a mother's perspective?
Learn how to scrub baseball pants. Honestly, that is like the one skill. Y'all pretend like, oh, we have no idea how to do this. You're so good at it. Like, you hype us up cleaning these damn pants because you don't even do it. You come in and you see us hanging over the side of, the bathtub scrubbing, and it's like mysteriously we're the only ones that are capable. Although that a lot of moms also wear our laundry abilities as a badge of honor, that those pants will be white when they step back out on the field. But I would just say, say thank you, recognize we don't need an overabundance of gratitude for things because we're doing it for our family and that's our role. But sometimes it's like, hey, if you could fill water bottles or get the laundry where it needs to be, or just, you have a bad game, I still have to come home and wash the pants. So just, kindness goes a long way, as I try to remind the children as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I juggle with this because I appreciate a clean uniform, and I think it's respectful to the game. I think it's respectful to the, everything and everybody. But at the same time, I also know that it's going to get dirty before they even start the next game because they're going to be sliding in warm-ups. So I hate to see you labor over that, but I certainly appreciate it and respect it when he puts on his uniform as we're leaving the house and is polished and ready to go.
Yeah. Look good, do good. But at the same time, sometimes I'm like, what did you touch that was blue? Why was your things? What did you sit in while you were there? It's all part of the game.
You talked about this a little bit. Your take on feeling like, there's a lot to juggle, right? There just always is. But at some points, it can sometimes feel like it's going perhaps too far. Private coaching, travel teams, travel schedules, I won't say work-life balance, but, balancing it all, as we get into teenage years, thinking about preparing for high school and college baseball for people that want to do that. And there's a little bit of a self-promotion and a kind of building your case and starting to the recruiting process. What's called overscheduling. Like, have you touched that point, and how do you handle that?
I don't think so. Listen, the travel atmosphere gets a bad rap, right? You can go on any Facebook group, any Instagram feed, and you're going to see people who are pro travel ball. You're going to see a lot of people that say travel ball is ruining youth sports. I think there's no right answer to any of that. There are travel ball programs and there are just, things in general where kids are being pushed too far. They are too overscheduled. The commitments are too much. They're missing childhood as part of it. There are also travel ball programs that have a balanced schedule and focus on development and teamwork and are really setting them up for that next, phase in their career. There are rec ball programs that do the exact same thing. So, I don't think that you could pick one or the other. You have to pick truly what's best for your athlete, your family, find the right coaching staff, find the right programs. And when it feels like a match, whatever that is, you're going to know. You might do better in a program that is a little bit more development only, 2 games a week, no practices in season. And if that's what works for you and the goals that your athlete has, great. You might find yourself on the other side of that where it's, juggling 2 separate teams and tournaments every weekend and all of that. But if that works for your family, go with it. That's what works for us. We've been able to design our lives in a way that while it's crazy some days, we can keep up with it just fine. He's having fun. Our daughter's having fun. We're getting to be on the road. We're busy people in general. Like that's, if we weren't at the baseball field, we would be out doing something else anyway. So it fits our lifestyle. So yeah, while there's some nights you look at each other and you're like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like we've been home for 4 minutes today. At the same time, it's in the grand scheme of things, it is such a short-lived period of time that if you can make it work, you make it work. And, we don't know, nobody knows with their athlete if they are done after this season, if they are done high school ball, if they are done college, if they are done pro. You don't know when the last day is going to be until it's already happened. And so why not put everything into it now so you don't look back and go, oh gosh, if we had only, if we had only made more time, if we had only done this thing when we knew, you don't know.
We talk about that. And I think that's one of the things that we've done pretty well, actually really well. I'll give us credit is we push, I'll call it nudge because I don't think we push too hard. Hopefully we don't. Maybe we have at times. But we nudge, we encourage, we kind of lay out, hey, this is what it takes. This is the grit. This is the resilience that you need for success. But also, we're going to take your lead, son, about, do you want to go to this one tonight because you've got 8 games this week? And we're not saying, it's just, he's a kid. I think we've done a good job of letting him take the lead on some of that. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I agree. And it's the joys of parenting, right? There's no handbook. You know your kid. I think as long as the kid's in it, then you keep going. When the kid digs their heels in and pushes the brakes and says, I don't want this, you got to listen. You really got to listen. I think, the program that we're in right now too really does a great job of letting these boys be young men, right? Like they're held to young men standards when they're in the dugout and on the field, right? You're a good teammate, you're on time, you have, full effort, you do your job, you're there for each other. They are definitely held to a higher standard of learning the game, knowing the game, all of that. You set them loose, in between games or back at the hotel, and they are feral 12-year-old kids, right? Like they're having wing eating contests and they're throwing balls around the parking lot and they're jumping in the hotel pool and they're, just being wild. But they should. And I think that helps them also not walk around with, the weight of all of this pressure of, almost having a job of baseball. And they're having fun playing baseball. They get to be kids and they're hanging out with their friends. And oh, by the way, we also get to go play this game that we love and take it seriously, but not too seriously. So I think there's definitely that balance. But don't be fooled. Not everybody has that, right? And we've seen that different tournaments that we travel to and stuff. There are situations that we've seen happen, with other teams or whatnot, where you're like, wow, that would never work for our kid, or our family. So again, I think so much of it is just finding the right fit for you and for your athlete. 100%.
Can you think of an example where it was like kind of a cringy? And I don't want to judge. Everyone's different, but a kind of a cringy parent moment, sideline coaching, pushing too hard, promoting too hard, social media spotlight, anything like that.
Oh, this is gonna get me in trouble. I mean, do I think that your 7-year-old needs a sponsored Instagram account to help them get into the big league? No. I see a lot of that. I hope they're putting just as much time in on the field as they are to growing their Instagram account. Social media stardom is not going to get you on a roster one day. I think we're seeing even now in mainstream media and stuff that sometimes being the big flashy one doesn't pay off, right? Your major league coach is not there to support your social media career by any means. So some of that, I mean, even when I think about programs or coaching styles, our child, and I think our philosophy and your philosophy as a coach, like you guys don't scream at kids. Like we are not in a culture of berating someone or putting them down or making them feel inferior to try to get results on the field. And I think we've seen some of that. That would not motivate our athlete. Coaches who scream and fight and, try to bump chests with umpires during the game, not a program that's going to feel like home to us. Because I think too, we look at it as, yes, he's an athlete. Yes, he's playing baseball. Yes, he has a goal and a career. But at the end of the day, that could be taken away from him at any time. And you still have to be raising a good human on the other side of it. And so much of that, he is spending 20, 25 hours a week at the baseball field. He better be around people that also have integrity and good character and are just, again, learning how to be well-rounded young men and not just phenomenal athletes. Like, you have to have both. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I'd put my sunglasses down and get a lot of Botox so people can't see my stairs across the field. I'm good.
No, and I put up a post the other day or a story the other day, just kind of touched on similar. I think a lot of coaches will tolerate the flash and the bling and everything to a point until they can't.
Yeah.
Results matter, but personal accountability, character,
Yeah.
in one word, it's character. That matters more than anything, and that's something that I know our organization's big on, and the organizations that we've been around that demonstrate that it draws you in. It draws you in, and that's hopefully something that we've been able to work through pretty well as parents as well.
Yeah. There's such a difference too of being, I'm going to talk about moms, right? We've all heard this term, like momager, right? Being the momager, being, the stage mom, being whatever it is. I think there can be a point when that does go too far and you stop supporting and instead become a distraction. If you're constantly up behind the plate with a video on your child, like what pressure is that putting on them? And also, how does that look to the coaches or anybody that's coming to, especially as you get an older athlete, they're in high school or whatever. If mom is the distraction, that is a turnoff to coaches at the next level. Everything that I'm learning about the recruiting process now is like when you take your child to, showcases or whatever it might be for that next level, you better keep your butt in the car if you can't behave on the sidelines and not be yelling over coaches and everything else. So yeah, I think it's definitely, and it's something that's going to evolve over time. When you have a T-baller and they're all playing swarm ball and chasing after things on the field, get loud, right? Cheer on your kid, make it a big thing. You're still bringing cupcakes to the ballpark, the whole deal. You got to rein that in the older that they get. And I've learned a lot of that just from knowing, your baseball career and seeing you work with athletes at a higher level. We gotta let these boys turn into men.
I don't know you could not have said that any better. I shared a story, I think I shared it on the podcast way back in the beginning about our daughter actually. And we were at a water park in the Dominican and she was running probably 10, 15 yards ahead of me. and slipped and just completely wiped out right when she was getting to the steps to go up to one of the big slides. Completely wiped out, landed flat on her back. It was hard. It was a hard fall. And of course, she looks back at me, and I'm just casually walking. Like I didn't break stride. I didn't pick up pace, anything like that. And there was another parent. There was a mom that was nearby, and she was like, she saw it, and she, eyes bug and everything. And I just calmly walked up to her and was like, "Hey, you good?" And knowing if I had responded to that fall with panic or anxiety or stress or urgency, she would have responded that way. But when I was able to just kind of walk up and stay calm, I was like, all good. And the thing is, that's one of the things we talk about with our athletes too. But our athletes, our children, and our teenagers will feed off of our energy.
Yeah.
And when you're putting out that pressure, when you're putting out that energy, they're going to feel it much more than they would otherwise internalize.
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, in the coaching work that you do, so much of it is kind of undoing the pressure that they feel from their parents. And that's a hard line to walk, of saying that, hey, mom, hey, dad, you might be driving a lot of this in your athlete unknowingly. You're trying to do the right things, but it's maybe not landing. And again, it's going to be different kid to kid, but I agree. I mean, in being a catcher's mom, you have to watch them take a hit and just wait, and I've said that for years, of just give him a minute. And I know that about my child now, like, just give him a minute, let him get up. But I will never run on the field. I'm not going to, do any of those kind of things. But I think, yeah, it's tough sometimes to sit back and just trust that they're going to be all right. Don't put the pressure on. If they strike out, they're going to look at their mamas. Like, that's the other thing with these baseball kids. A lot of them, they are mamas, boys. And if their dad's not in the dugout, they're immediately scanning the crowd, and they're looking at you to be like, hey, you got it. You know what I mean? Next one, not hanging the head and, all of that stuff. Or they hear you on the videos that you take. And that stuff sinks in. And then you have to undo it.
Yeah, you do. And we have dogs. And when you have dogs, you're dog training, but you're also owner training, you're parent training. That's really what dog trainers do. And I don't think it's too different. I'm not calling our young men dogs, but at the same time, parents and coaches need the training as well. So you talked a little bit about short-term kind of micro moment failures or pain or injuries. What about, kind of longer-term failures or struggles? What do you say to your son?
I like to work through tough situations with humor. So I think a lot of times I have to bring him down from that heightened stress state by just being silly, being goofy, reminding him, you are 12 years old. There is not one major league scout looking at you right now. Like, this stuff doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of life, this stuff doesn't matter. And I think if we can talk them through the fact that, like, this is a game that's supposed to be fun, that can help. I also do a lot of comparison because, I get in trouble for not using the right baseball terminology in my household. And I call bloopers the wrong things. I call dingers the wrong things. I call pop-ups things that aren't right. I don't know. I try my best. However, I try to do a lot of comparison too with the people that he's watching on TV, right? All of the cards that he's collecting in his room. It's like, hey, how many times has Gunnar Henderson struck out? How many times has Jackson Holliday bobbled a ball? How many times has somebody lost it in the lights and, it falls into the triangle of death in the outfield? This stuff happens no matter what level you're at. So why are you holding yourself to some standard of perfection that doesn't exist? And again, it's just that reality of, it doesn't have to be a big talking moment. It doesn't have to be a lecture. It doesn't have to be any of that. It's just sometimes step one is reality, that all of this, it's not as big of a deal as you think. And it's a speed bump. It's not a destination, right? It's just a little blip on the radar.
As a dad, everything is a lesson opportunity, right?
Yeah. As a coach, those end of game circles can go on a little long sometimes. And then you ask the kid at the end, like, what does your coach say? And he's like, something about base running. Like, great. That really sunk in.
Yeah. Yep. That's why we got to keep doing it. So you talked a lot about, you know, them being kids and you never know when it's going to end. What is one lesson, if you could think of one lesson that you would want your son to have from the game of baseball that applies to life, what would that be?
Probably a mix of confidence and grit, right? Bad thing, like you're going to have a bad day. It's going to be raining. It's going to be cold. Your power hitter is going to be sick, or, your thumb's going to hurt because you took a fastball off of it, or whatever it is, right? The environment is going to suck some days. But if you can still walk out there and be like, you know what, I'm going to give it my best effort no matter what, right? The personal mindset journey, I think, is the biggest thing, because that's what's going to carry through life. You're not always going to have the same athletic ability. You're not always, you might not always play baseball forever. But life is always going to throw you curveballs. And you've got to learn. Sometimes it's taking one to the ribs. Sometimes it's hitting one out of the park. At some point, life is going to feed it to you. And if you can mentally be ready to say, I got this, that I think is what's going to take people far in life. And those are the lessons that I think they're learning on the field. How to be a teammate, how to lift each other up, right? How to not blame other people for things, how to take personal accountability for stuff and put in the work for what you want. That's the stuff that is going to extend far beyond their career that they're going to have in baseball.
Couldn't said it better. And we experienced this very recently. Our son had a great start to the season, and then he had a weekend series where he just, for whatever reason, he didn't play well. He didn't perform well. The team did. The team great, and he was a great teammate. So there's no problem there. But from a stats perspective, he struggled a little bit, and you could see it. But he came out of that. Whereas in the past, the confidence may have wavered, and it may have had a longer lasting imprint.
Mm-hmm.
And through work with a good coach, through the mindset and the conversations we have as parents with him, and the work that he's put in himself, and that's where the confidence comes from, is the evidence of the work that he's done, to be able to go back and say, and he shows up to his very next game against one of the toughest pitchers he's ever faced and hits the furthest ball he's ever hit on a 2-strike count, long home run. They win the game, and he's back. And it's just that quick mental reset. And I think that's been a product of his work ethic and his discipline, surrounding himself with good coaches, and the messages and the confidence that we as parents have worked to instill in him. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I think as parents, sometimes too, I think the baseball world can feel really small, but I think it's important for parents to know, like, there are so many options and opportunities out there. Find the right fit. Find the people who are not overthrowing your kids' arms and, focusing just on the physical aspect, bringing the biggest kids on the team because they want rings that are going to sit in your bedroom. You need to find people who are developing for life, and the wins will come and all of that will come. And I think we've seen it really with him, even in the past 12 months, now that he's at this age, right? The almost 13, understanding a little bit more about the brain stuff going into it. An 0 for 8 weekend a year or so ago would have trashed him for 3 weeks. And that would have also been the excuse for everything to come. This weekend, yeah, he was not himself at the plate. I mean, he came in first 6 games of the season, on base percentage, amazing, batting average, great, goes 0 for 8. Team wins the championship without a hit from him, which I think is a little humbling, right? It's a little hit to the ego. Oh, he performed on the field, but not at the plate. And you have to shoulder that feeling. But he had great teammates around him that didn't make him feel bad for any part and piece of that, because they realized they've all been there. And then he shook it off, and he got back up there and crushed that home run, because, again, he realized that it was momentary. But he has so many people in his life telling him, it's not a big deal, kid. It's not, like, are you putting in the work? Yes. Did you put in the effort? Yes. Like, are you sticking to the fundamentals? Yes. All right, it just didn't work out. Like, that day, those pitchers got one over on him. And the next day, he took that pitcher for a ride. So it's a game of ups and downs. And the sooner that they can really, I think, connect the dots in their own head about what it means for them, what it means for their team, all of that, they can just turn it around so much faster. But so many people struggle with that, even as adults. You know, I run big teams and I have for over a decade. So many adults can't move past things like that. I'm like a walking billboard for mindset coaching.
You are. You're
Yeah.
crushing it. You're crushing it.
Later in life who can't regulate emotions and, you know, I think would, instead of throwing a baseball bat, it's like throwing a stapler in their office and like they tantrum over things and all of that. And it's like, man, you were never on a competitive sports team in your life. Where hurt you? Because there is a different outcome when I have worked with competitive athletes in my career as well, because they're just gritty and they don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like they're in it. And I love that.
Well, and we're not always perfect. Like yesterday, we go to a game. We're on our way to the game, and I'm like, my cortisol's spiking. I just need a minute to meditate before I get out of this car. And you're like, kids, give dad space. He needs some time. This morning, getting ready for school, our son throws his laundry basket. So we're not always perfect, but we try.
Yeah. Again, I think it's catching it, but a lot of it, it's not going to stop that stuff in the moment, because what? Emotions are data. We were just listening to something about that the other day. Like your emotion, it was church. Emotions are just data points and you can't stop them from happening, right? If you're hit with excitement, sadness, nervousness, anxiety, anger, whatever it is, okay, you feel it, gut check yourself. It's what happens next. It's how fast can we turn the page on that, and how are we going to use it, and what are we going to do with it? That makes the difference.
Well, I want to hit you with some rapid fire things. I'm going to get some advice, right? And some questions as we close out. So, to the mom who's listening, who's feeling some of those emotions, right? Some of that pressure, some of the exhaustion, discouragement, whatever it is, what would you say to her?
Take a breath, mama. Like at the end of the day, your kid needs you to be mom, right? Whether he strikes out, he hits a home run, it's a good day, it's a bad day. Like you are just mom at the end of it. That's all they need. That's it. Showing up and being there is all they need. They don't need you to be the coach. They don't need you to be any of that, right? Just go back to the basics of what your role is, and support all of them. And at the end of the day, if you're part of a program that makes you feel some kind of way, if your kid isn't performing, find a new place. Right? Every game, there's, not everyone's going to be the star. That just is what it is in life, on the field, whatever. But if you're in a program that makes it feel like you're not enough, find a new spot. Don't put the pressure on you. Don't put the pressure on your kid. Go somewhere that, again, they're focused on some different things.
I think it's important to know a couple of things. One, it's not just about your kid, right? It's about being a mom, maybe not being the mom to every kid, but having that culture where everyone on the team feels like you are supporting everyone on that team, not just your kid.
Yeah.
And not always looking for that easy button of, if there's value in standard differences, right? If there's discrepancies between what you value as a parent, what's important to you as a parent, and maybe it's philosophical, but don't look for the easy button just because your kid's not playing. That's not teaching them grit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's the gut check for you as a mom too, right? It's not all, if your son's not getting playing time, that's not when you say, we're going to find a new program, right? Because that's not going to change anything. Like you said, it's the values part and what's best for your kid. But yeah.
Next one. I hate hacks. But tips and tricks for new baseball moms. What are some of your top 3 tips or tricks, hacks for moms?
All the food. Sample box is king. Proteins, fruits, drinks, all the things, because you never know what your kid's going to need, what another kid's going to need. So pack all the food. Plus, it keeps the siblings away from the concession stands all day that only sell sugar. Second thing, pack a baseball mom bag. I feel like this is something that actually stemmed from my wedding career, where I bring an emergency kit to everything. Pack a baseball mom bag and just leave it in your car for the duration of the season. Baby wipes, eye drops, because catchers tend to get dirt in their eyes, or when kids slide, they get dirt in their eyes. All the different kind of Band-Aids, steri strips, an extra ace wrap. What else is in there? Sharpies. I have zip ties because zip ties can fix anything. All the things, but pack that bag, because feeling prepared is great. You're out in the middle of nowhere at these fields sometimes, and there's nothing in sight and you can't leave. So have everything that you're going to need. And lots of hand sanitizer.
Right.
For reasons I am not going to explain.
Best baseball snack.
Beef jerky. Beef jerky is the big one.
Underrated
snack. Sunflower seeds end up everywhere. And if that bag opens in my bag, I'm mad about it. Plus, a lot of places now, if you're playing anywhere with turf, this is also something good for new baseball moms. If you're going anywhere with turf, don't bring seeds. They do not let you have them. So beef jerky is a huge one. They can have it in the dugout. You can throw it in your bag. High protein, fills their bellies, but doesn't weigh them down with like the junk. Nothing that they sell at a concession stand is really good for in between games. It really is not. Lean meats, lots of fruit. We buy, mini cucumbers and cutie oranges. Easy stuff. Easy.
Should moms be in the dugout or near the bench?
Hell no. And this is not just me as a coach's wife, but again, it's like, it's not just a distraction to your player. It's a distraction to all the players, because everyone's like, why is your mom here? You know what I mean? Like and again, they're 12 and 13-year-old boys on our team, where there's still some of that, like, why is your mom coming in the dugout, or, whatever. No. Bring a comfy chair, bring a book, bring handcuffs if you need to keep yourself situated, on the bleachers. I don't really care what you need to do. Stay seated.
So one of the things I've looked forward to since we've had kids is taking you to Mother's Day brunch. And unfortunately, the last couple of years, and probably for the foreseeable future, that's not going to be easy to do. Mother's Day brunch or ballpark?
Ballpark. It is just who we are as a family at this point. It is. And we're all going to be together anyway. All 4 of us are going to be there. Our kids are going to be having a great time. We're going to be outside on a beautiful day. What else do you need? Whether I'm in a restaurant or I'm at the field, end goal is the same, right?
Describe being a baseball mom in 3 words.
Your biggest supporter.
And thinking about the next season, you got to peek behind the curtains of my approach to this whole thing, but thinking about next season from a mom's perspective, parent's perspective that's not familiar with it, what does next season mean to you as a mother?
I think at the end of it all, our job is to just listen, right? Listen to them. Push when we need to. Focus on happiness, because the next season will come faster than we can think. And again, none of us know when that next season is. It's like, it is the blessing and the curse of being a baseball mom is when you're really in this world and you start to hear all of the stories. Like there's a huge community online of baseball moms, and you see how fast people's lives change. Kids have career-ending injuries at 12. You take a fly ball to the face and you lose your vision. Like, that dream is done. So live in the moment. Don't stress too much about what that next season is yet. Like, one step at a time to get there. Focus on the goal. There is not a map on how to get recruited. There's not a map on, any of that stuff. It's, you have a destination and you're going to take your own path to get there. Just one day at a time. Don't put too much pressure on them when they're young, and just be mom.
Well, here's the last bonus question. All right, last bonus question.
Is it which one of my shirts I like the most?
Okay, we'll go there. We'll go there. We'll go there in a second. But I do have to give a shout out, because one of the things that I loved about you from the beginning was even before we started dating seriously, I knew you liked the movie The Sandlot.
Yeah.
Because you would quote it. Now, I knew you liked it because you had a crush on Benny the Jet, which I'm going to excuse.
Well, that was like 8. Let's be, and I'm not an adult having a crush on Benny the Jet Rodriguez, but when
that's awkward.
He was like 9 or 10, Benny was my future husband, as I'm sure he was for a lot of other baseball moms out there currently.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I certainly appreciate our shared love of the movie The Sandlot. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite baseball mom shirt?
I have a couple baseball mom shirts. My new one for this season actually isn't baseball themed per se, but it's one that says, "Please be patient with me because I'm from the 1900s," which the kids love. They cannot believe that my birth year is in the 1900s. I am so old. So that one will definitely get a kick out of that at the ballpark. I have so many funny baseball mom shirts, but again, that's also my way of bringing just some levity to this whole thing, because it's supposed to be fun. So yeah, everyone likes to see what baseball mom shirt I show up in. And they're so great. Also, small business creators out there. Shout out to all the baseball moms that are also paying for tournaments and buying new bats and keeping up with hotel stays with their side hustles of doing gear and swag and drip and all the things. I love it. We get scrappy. We make it happen.
Yeah. There's a really cool culture of it. And to be able to see, you're supporting small business and people being creative. But to your point, like, what we wear becomes our identity. It's our brand. It's our, we're billboards for what we wear. Mm-hmm. And if we can just bring a little bit of levity and humor and not take everything so serious, it does make a difference.
It does.
I love that about you. All right, this is the last question. Worst bleacher moment you've seen in person?
Worst bleacher moments. I mean, there's always that like icky side embarrassment for other people when you see people like go really hard on the umpires. Listen, most umpires are blind. We know that, like, especially when it's our kid on the mound, they can't see anything. But there's secondhand embarrassment when people are really screaming. I don't know. I also feel like I'm always the one that has to deal with like the sibling injuries on the sidelines. Someone's always bleeding from somewhere. Yeah, I don't know. That was a hard question.
Well, as a husband, a father, a coach, to you personally, and to all the moms out there, thank you a million times isn't enough. But to be able to see you have the conversations with you, right, as a parent, just incredible gratitude, and you don't get enough credit for everything you do to keep everything moving. And this is to all of you out there. So thank you. Keep it up. We appreciate you. And on a personal note, Taryn, I appreciate you. We all appreciate you. And keep being you.
Thank you. And thank you to all of the mamas. It makes me feel good that if I can't be at a game, I know that there's 12 other moms there who are cheering for my kid like my own, watching, our daughter run around. I feel like I have 13 sons every weekend because I feel like
and dogs.
I know. I feel like I have 13 sons every weekend because it truly is. It's like an open mom policy. Like, you can go to any mother and they are going to take care of your kid like their own. And I think that's a blessing as a parent. And it is a blessing for these boys to feel so much love and support. And, to the players without moms, for whatever reason, everybody who steps in and steps up, whether it's fellow parents, a dad playing the role, whoever it is, right? It's important. So enjoy your babies while you got them.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.